What's up guys, Placid5 here, and today I'm going to be ranking all the characters from Dune Chapter 1 and 2 from worst to best. Now as you know, Dune Chapter 2 just got released, and after long anticipation, finally fans have the newest Part 2. Now I just saw it a few days ago and I could say that it was actually really good. I was really immersed into the world. Great world building, great visuals, great acting. Just overall a really solid movie. And I can't wait for the next one. So as a newcomer to the series, I'm going to be ranking all these characters based off performance, based off likability of the character, and based off character arc. Now obviously there's a lot of characters and not a lot of time for each of them to showcase themselves. So between the two movies, obviously some of these characters are really side characters, but still thought they would be given the chance to be ranked. Now, with all rankings, S means you're the best of the best, best character, amazing performance and everything, and D is you're not a great character, wasn't a great performance, etc, etc. Now, these characters down here, I couldn't identify them in the picture, so they're down here. If you guys know who these characters are, let me know. I believe the first one shows up in the second one, and this second person shows up in the first movie. But let me know if I'm wrong. But anyways, I am super intrigued by the world of Dune, and as sort of a newcomer, I was really impressed. So before I get started, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know below what you thought of Dune and what's your personal ranking. I'd love to hear them. Agree, disagree, let me know below. So without further ado, let's get going. Alright, so first up we're starting with Chani, played by Zendaya. So she is one of the vital part of the Ferman team. They are basically a community of desert people, basically, and they leverage their environment to get the upper hand on their opponent. They know the desert more than anybody else, and this becomes a pivotal role as the Dune story continues from the first one to the second one. They know their way around the desert, and they know how to survive, and that's what gives them the edge. So this character in particular, she kind of is the love interest, but also a very noble character in the story, and Paul actually has visions of her in the first one. Really visions about her, you know, falling in love with him and etc, etc, and she is way more than just a love interest though. As time goes on, you actually see her being conflicted about the way she feels about Paul as the story continues, especially in the second one. She is sort of conflicted. She's not fully convinced that he is this messiah that he says he is, and on one hand she does love him, but on the other hand it's very much something's not right, and she doesn't really fully believe in his cause. So because of that, she's conflicted, and I think Zendaya does a great job at showing that. It's a very interesting dynamic, and she has great chemistry with Timothée Chalamet throughout the series as well. So I like that sort of chemistry. I like her performance in it. She's very grounded. She doesn't show a lot of emotion. She does get angry here and there, but that's mainly the emotion she shows. But it's a lot of acting through the eyes and a lot of acting through the actual visual component. So I really do admire that, and I respect that. So without further delay, I think I'm going to put this particular character at the A tier. I think she's a vital role to the overall story. Next up, we have Lady Jessica, played by Rebecca Ferguson. Now, I'm sure you've recognized this actress from other movies like Mission Impossible and movies like that. And in this particular movie, and in the first one, she plays the mother of Paul Atreides. She is mentoring him, she is protecting him in the first one, and basically guiding him towards the path that he's supposed to take. Even in the painful parts, she's there. Very resilient, very strong character, a very motherly character. And in the second one, she's actually pregnant, and this plays a vital role in her story. She goes through many trials and tribulations, and it's really interesting to see how her character sort of develops. You know, in the second one, it is very much sort of an unknown path about what's going to come next, because as Paul has his visions, you start to see sort of more sinister and dark visions that he has about his own mom, or so it's assumed it is. And because of that, it's pretty interesting to kind of think about what's going to happen to this character. In this particular movie, she kind of assimilates herself into the Ferman community and becomes sort of a reverend mother, if you will, as this with this pregnant baby. She can actually hear what the baby's saying to her and all that. So overall, just a really great performance from her. Very interesting character. Again, really smart, and just a great like motherly character with some conflicting thoughts in there, and you can't really put a finger on her fully. So really great performance. I'm going to be putting her up at the... I'm gonna put her B+. I think it's fair right there. Next up, we have Gurney Halleck, played by Josh Brolin. This character appears in the first and second one, and has very much of a side role, more so in the second one than the first one. He is this sort of friend, companion, and also mentor to Paul as well. He was the right-hand man of Leto Atreides, which was Paul's father, I believe it was his right-hand man, and this character I really like because he brings a lot of personality to the world. I think that, you know, there's a lot of characters that are very one note, and they're meant to be like that. They all control their emotions, they're very diplomatic. There's some characters that get really mad, but that's really the main emotion that's shown. It's a lot of anger, pain, and then seriousness, right? There's a few characters that break that, and this is one of them. I think he brings a lot of personality. I think that his dynamic with Paul is really good, and bringing him into this one, it was a nice, refreshing sort of vibe that he brings, and you could tell if you were there in that world, you would get along with this character. Just a cool guy overall. Josh Brolin, to me, he's a great actor, obviously, so any role that he's in, he usually holds it down from what I've seen, given the right material. So overall, I really like this character. Really cool, really down to earth. So with that, I'm going to be putting him up at the A-. Next up, we have Reverend Mother Mohiam, if that's how you pronounce that, played by Charlotte Rampling. Now, she is the lady with the black robe that you saw sticking Paul's hand in the box and putting a needle up to his neck in the first one. This is her, and in the second one, she really plays sort of a shock collar. She is very methodical, she's very smart, which I like. I like how smart the characters are, and this is one of them. She is really calling the shots as one of the remaining Atreides members. She's really just holding down the line and doing what needs to be done. She's telling her colleagues what to do. She's commanding them and basically just making sure that history does not repeat itself. So she's really good in this role. Again, very diplomatic, very methodical in everything that she does, and I thought she does a great role of that. I'm totally convinced I would follow her lead if she was in charge, and it's smart the way that this character works. So again, not a lot of screen time per se in the second one or the first one. Very much a character that keeps the plot moving, but also vital to the role. And I think with the performance and the screen time kept in mind, I really do think that she does play, in the end, a vital role, indirectly. So I'm going to be putting, because of the screen time and because there's not a bunch to go off with this particular character, but I thought the performance was really good, so I'm going to be putting her up at the B+ tier. Next up, we have Alia Atreides, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. So basically, she has about 30 seconds of screen time in the entire movie and only appears in the second one. She is the unborn daughter of Lady Jessica, Paul's mom, and she has a quick little exchange with Paul in sort of a vision type thing. It's not much to go on. Anya Taylor-Joy is a very good actress. She's been up and coming for the past decade or so. So it was good to see her in this movie. But again, overall in the plot, obviously, she's definitely going to have a role in the next one for sure. Way more, I can already tell, when she's born and everything. But for now, not much to go on. 30 seconds of screen time isn't much. So not super memorable, not super vital to the plot. But, you know, Anya Taylor-Joy holds it down. So with that in mind, I'm going to be putting her up at the C tier. And again, she's only crutched by the screen time. Alright, so next up we have Feyd Rautha. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. He is one of the villains in the movie, and he's played by Austin Butler. I'm sure a lot of people are talking about his performance or his character. Normally, Austin Butler, from what I've seen, hasn't played the villain type, and this one is completely out left field from what he's been doing so far. He's definitely moved past the Elvis voice, and now he is bald, black eyes, black teeth. He is just completely a different character. He sounds completely different. Obviously, he's acting, but he's pretty much unrecognizable. He almost doesn't even sound or look like him at all. I really like this character. He is part of House Harkonnen, basically the villains, and he is a warrior assassin type fighter, very much known for his blades, the sharp blades that he uses. He's very weird, he's strange looking, but also he talks kind of weird, and just overall sort of an intimidating, kind of menacing character. And he is a side character to the main villain. Obviously, the main villain doesn't do much himself, but he has, you know, his minions, I guess, and this is one of them. And correct on this, I think he's the nephew of Dave Bautista's character, or the main guy, Vladimir Harkonnen. So one of them, he's the nephew of one of them. So obviously you can see that kind of resemblance in the baldness and all that. I mean, they're all bald, but there is a bloodline lineage there. So he kind of comes in near the third act, but he's one of the most memorable parts of the movie. The movie does a good job at kind of zoning him in, and I thought that his character brought this new, different vibe to the movie once he entered. And I was very impressed by Austin Butler's performance. I thought that this particular character was really fun to look at, or very fun to see on screen. And just his chemistry and role with all the other characters is very good. I think that it was definitely a good change of pace within the all the dark sort of sinister doings of the Harkonnen squad. Everybody's bald, it's black and white, everything's dark, you know, so he's also very much on brand with that, but they zone in on him. He has a little more personality as much as he can with his other counterparts. So with all that being said, I was very impressed by this role, performance by Austin Butler, and I thought it was a very good character. And it's great to see also the fight choreography and all that was really good to see. They're very fast-paced, very well choreographed. The stunt people and everybody in this movie was definitely at the top of their game with that. So with all that being said, fun character to watch, really cool vibe, putting him up at the A tier. Alright, next we have Thufir Hawat. He was only in the first movie, he's on this list, so might as well just rank him. But this is played by Stephen McKinley Henderson. I've seen in other movies, he always holds it down, and in Dune 1 particularly, he plays sort of a military strategist. He is the right-hand operations person in House Atreides, and essentially he kind of leads and talks to the leader, which was Leto in this case, and essentially that was his role. He is very much a side character, but again, very well spoken, very smart character, and I like that. And even with his downfalls in the first one, I thought that definitely he held it down. Again, you don't see him in the second one, and obviously that's a fresh take. The first one, he does have more of a role, obviously, but, you know, with all that being said, overall story, not much of a super memorable character like you're gonna leave saying, yeah, that's the guy. But overall, a good performance. So only because of the screen type and all that, I'm gonna be putting him up B minus. I think that's fair. B minus, C plus, somewhere around there. Next up, we have the worm itself. Now, doesn't talk, doesn't have lines, but is so much of a character in this movie. So in the desert area of this world that they're in, there's these worms that live under the ground, and actually the Furmen use this to their advantage, so much so that they actually are riding them, like that's how they get around, which is actually such a cool idea. And I think that because of this, the actual size of them, they're behemoths, they're massive creatures, and they look so creepy with all the teeth. I hate anything with a bunch of teeth, and that's literally just what the worm is. It's like a leech or a bloodsucker, whatever, like, but 100 times that size. Like, they're just teeth everywhere, and they suck in, they eat full machinery, huge vehicles, like huge things in the ground. They just swallow it up. So having that sort of intimidating factor and seeing them coming, like you can see them from a mile away, like a tsunami. They're coming down the desert, and once they get to you, they're gonna eat you. Basically, you're done for. And I love that the dynamic it causes, that they are actually using these creatures not only to get around, but use it against their opponents as well. They have these things that mimic footsteps, and that attracts the worms. And then they have a certain walk. The Furmen have this walk that they do to avoid the worm. So it very much is a character, even though it doesn't have any lines. The worm is such an iconic part of the Dune franchise, I could already tell. So because of that, S tier. It's a fundamental part of the movie, and the visual graphics are amazing. So if we want to consider that the performance of the worm, S tier it is. Next up, we have Princess Irulan, played by Florence Pugh. Now, she doesn't have much screen time either, but the movie basically opens up and ends with her also in a way. And she is one of the last people of House Atreides that's living as well. And she, as an actress, I think Florence Pugh definitely always holds it down. I'm very impressed by her track record over the past few years. You know, she's definitely up and coming, and this is no different. She's totally diplomatic. She's composed in this movie. She's narrating vital parts, and it's really great to see her in a role like this. She doesn't have a lot of screen time, but I did like it. She was memorable, and I think that the dynamic she has with Christopher Walken and the other characters, you could tell how much that they set up this character to be something more than what she actually looks like, which is just like a princess, right? Or like an empress or something. It's leading up, and if you know how the movie ends, obviously, you know that this particular character is definitely going to have a much bigger role in the next movies. But for now, obviously, she is just used more for exposition and other things like that. So she was memorable for the time that she had. And obviously, I'm not being biased. I'm putting her up at the B tier, B minus. I'm not being biased against Anya Taylor-Joy or any other characters in terms of screen time. I know it's not fully their fault, but some characters just have more of an impact, and then these two just had a bigger impact than Anya Taylor-Joy. So yeah. Next up, speaking of screen time, we have Reverend Mother Ramallo, played by Giusi Merli. Now, if you've seen her in any other movie, you know she has nailed the possessed look. That's her look. Look at her in the picture. I mean, she's gone. She's no longer there. And that's basically the role that she plays in the movie. Now, she's a Reverend Mother, and they're very well respected in the Furman tribe, in the Furman family, you know, so they are very well respected. So she's one of those people. She does a good job. She speaks in the Furman language, so totally encapsulated the role and the look. So I give the actress props, and as far as the writing, everything, she's speaking in a different language, and it's a made-up language too. So it's totally like gibberish or something. It's made up, but again, it's very memorable, I guess, because of the look, and it's a good setup into how Lady Jessica actually has her transformation as well. So it's very interesting to see that, and above all, you know, with all that being said, though, she doesn't have much of a role. It's very just straight exposition. This character is never seen again. You see her here and there, but it's mainly for the look of it. So I can't really do much with the character. You're not gonna really be able to flesh out this character. Maybe in the books they do, but in the movies they don't have the time to flesh out these side characters. So overall, with the plot, she's important because of how she helps Lady Jessica, but other than that, I think I'm gonna be putting her up at the C tier. Next, we have Leto Atreides, which was a vital part in the first movie. He was the dad of Paul Atreides, and essentially he is this noble, honorable leader. He is fair, he is composed, he's the good. He's basically the good in the world. And I really like that. I think Oscar Isaac did such a great job. And, you know, if you haven't seen the first one, he does get executed. And they kind of comment on the fact that he was a weak leader in this one. And you can almost kind of see, because he was a very nice guy, but he was like a general commander type. And he did see the good in a lot of things. So overall, I like that. It makes the characters likable like this, likable, commendable. So I really like this character. I thought that Oscar Isaac did a great job, and the great chemistry between the characters, the respect you see through that, even the subtlety of the performance and everything about how people interact with them and everything. It truly is a quality character. These are the type of characters that I like to see. They add a lot to the overall character development of a lot of the characters, especially Paul. He mentors him. It shows how much he loves him, and you know, when he eventually dies, it makes it all that more impactful. So because of that, I'm going to be putting him up at the A- tier. Next we have Duncan Idaho. He's in the first one he's played by Jason Momoa, and now this particular character doesn't have a bunch of screen time either, but he's a great set piece and a great character, very similar to Josh Brolin. He's a mentor to Paul, he's very kind, and he actually ends up sacrificing himself to help him and his mom escape. So it kind of shows the kind of nobility that the House Atreides has, as opposed to the Harkonnen, how they're so much more brutal and evil with things, and then it's completely opposite here. So this guy was a really cool guy, a mentor, a trainer, definitely one of those characters that you root for, you don't want them to die, and they have a big impact on the main character, which is Paul in this case, and their development in the story. So I liked this character, thought it was really cool. Putting him up at the B. I'm going to be putting him at the A. I really like this character. I like the vibe that they gave him and everything. It's unfortunate that he had to be killed off. Next up, we have Margot Fenring, played by Léa Seydoux. The French actress, I'm sure you recognized her in the latest James Bond movie, but in this particular movie, she shows up in the second one and acts sort of like an infiltrator, sort of a spy type, if you will, which is very ironic, because I just mentioned James Bond, but she's basically tasked to go and scout out the Harkonnen family, you know, basically, or certain elements of it. I don't want to give too much away, but that's basically her main job, and she does talk her way through things or out of things and kind of gets people where she wants them to be. Not a huge part, again, a lot of characters, it's hard to go deep into these, but she was very good in it then, and she is one of people with the black cloaks over them. I don't know what they're called in the book or in the movies, but she's part of their squad, and she is helping them basically with a bigger mission, and that's what she does, and she executes her role very well, executes her mission, and yeah, I overall, you know, not a lot of screen time, but I liked, from what I saw of her, I liked. So, putting her up at the B- tier. Next up, we have Stilgar, played by Javier Bardem. Now, he is the leader of the Firmin, basically. He's who they listen to. He's the commander, the leader, and he ends up being a mentor to Paul, which is really cool to see that. And you could tell how devoted he is to the beliefs of the Firmin and the culture and everything. And everything that he does, he is always promoting people to do their best, or he's always just this leader personality, which is awesome to see. And he had personality. He has good personality in the movie, and he was one of my favorite characters in the movie. He stood out as this sort of new personality. It's a breath of fresh air for a lot of characters, and I think his development in the movie and Javier Bardem's performance is excellent in it. And having him as, like I said, a mentor character to Paul and everybody around it, but also specifically to Paul, makes it even more of a vital character as well. And he's the leader of basically the group that Paul is becoming assimilated with. So, but as a standalone character, liked him a lot, really likable, great personality, just overall like a good figure in the movie, and I liked him a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna throw him up at the S tier. And next we have our lead character, Paul Atreides, played by Timothée Chalamet. He is the arc of the entire story. He's the main character, so how good is he? I think Timothée Chalamet does a very good job at him. There's a lot of range in it, a lot of talking in front of a big group as a leader, but also being being somebody who is taking on a lot, someone who's seeing vision, someone who's has to sort of grapple with a lot of the things that are happening around him. It's a very conflicted character, and a lot going on. It's hard to put a finger on him as well, just like his mom. It's hard to sort of navigate how the audience is supposed to feel about his particular character. Is he good? Is he bad? Does he mean well? He kind of is shifting his tone throughout. You know, he's different with Chani's character, and then he's totally doing something else at the end of the movie. You know, it's like, it's very interesting to see his dynamic in his role, but it's really cool to see this character sort of develop. He gets stronger, he gets wiser, he gets better as a leader. He is basically the chosen one. It's that archetype of Neo, Luke Skywalker, all these, like, he's the Messiah, he's the one, right? He's got something that nobody else has, and throughout the movie, they're saying like it as it's written, like what they read, everything they've read, the scriptures, it's happening. That's him, and he embodies that role very well. But still, as a child, basically, still as a student of the world around him. It's a very good character. I like those archetypes, and even though it's been done before, I do like this character, and I like having seen the first one, how they develop his character and how they develop that role. So I really do like that, and I think, like I said, Timothée Chalamet has a very hard road ahead of him, but he did a really good job. I think that he has great chemistry with the other actors and actresses. So with all that being said, I really like the character. I'm going to be putting him up at the A+ tier. The only thing maybe I would say about him is that he is a little one-dimensional at times, and I think that's how he's supposed to be. From what I've read, that's how the character's supposed to be, so I can't really hold it against anybody, but I'm putting him up at an A+, bordering on an S tier. Next we have Vladimir Harkonnen, played by Stellan Skarsgård. So he's basically the main villain. He's this fat, bald, strange-looking man that floats around. He dips in a vat of acid or something. I don't know. He's the main. He screams evil, and he barely has any lines in this. But he is like the main villain. He's like the guy that people go to. Like, what should we do? He's in command. And again, he's menacing. His look is just the prosthetics and everything are amazing. And this actor, Stellan Skarsgård, is great. I think he's an excellent actor. I've seen him in other things. I've always been blown away by his acting ability. And this one, he totally embodies the role. And I'm sure he's going to have more of a role going forward. But he is definitely the commander-in-chief of the evil empire, the Harkonnen. So, you know, having how he sort of gives orders and everything, again, it's cool to see that. Gives like structure, gives like a look and name to like the evil side of the story. So it's very interesting to see that dynamic. I almost would have liked to hear more of him speak and more of him talk and interact with the other characters, but with everything that we had, I think it's pretty good. And it's the same kind of story with the first one. He does, I believe he talks more in the first one as well than the second one, but again, that's more exposition and stuff like that. But again, I like this character. I'm going to be putting him up at the I'll put A-. I like to think that they did a good job with him. Next, we have Gluso Robin, or Beast Robin. I believe that's how you say his name, and that's played by Dave Bautista. He is put basically in charge of an army at a certain point in this movie, and he is in the first one as well. He's one of the leading men of the Harkonnen squad, and that turns out to be a bit of a mistake. He is the definition of a brute, just yelling, like whenever he gets mad, he kills somebody, that kind of character. Just a little annoying at times, but that's just his character. He's just basically an idiot in a way, but he's like a brute. Like, he's got the strength, but not much brain involved, and just very aggressive, like, crush everybody, like, forget about semantics, like, we're just gonna go in there and kill these desert people. Just send everybody to kill these desert people. And obviously, it's not that simple, and, you know, he ends up becoming more of a cowardly character. I don't want to give too much away, but I think Dave Bautista does a good role. It is just a lot of yelling and screaming. I mean, you know, he's just angry. He's basically like a man-child in a way, and that's just his character. I can definitely see a character like this in the book. Also, tell me below, you know, I'd love to hear, in relation to the book, how faithful were they to the actual subject matter or the source material. I'd love to hear that, but I can imagine that they did it justice. But this particular character is fun to watch, but I've seen characters like this before. It's just a brute, an idiot brute that ends up doing more harm than good, and really just has his strength on his side. So I'm gonna be putting him up C+, bordering on a B-. It's not a bad character, but it's nothing I haven't really seen before. Nothing crazy. And then finally we have Shaddam the Fourth, Christopher Walken, very few screen time. Again, I found myself saying that a lot during this video, but there is a lot that happens in this movie. It's very dense, lots of things that happen, and it's hard to kind of give all these characters screen time. It very much is leading into the next movie, which I'm sure it'll probably be 3.5 hours, but you know, because you got to cover so much. But for this particular movie, Christopher Walken, he's he's basically one of the last Atreides that's I was upper in command. I don't know exact title, but he's definitely someone that was higher up. He was in command of stuff, and it's very interesting what happens at the end with this particular character. And it's basically him and Florence Pugh, and they are basically just trying to see how they can get any kind of power back from what they lost. It's not much of a role. There's not much screen time. Doesn't talk much. You know, has just a few little moments, but pretty integral to the story. I'm going to be putting him up at the B minus. I'll put B minus. I was going to put C plus. B minus seems fair, but yeah, there's not much to say about the character. I really do want to see what happens next with this particular character and the others. But there you have it. All the Dune characters, part 1 and 2, ranked from best to worst, in my opinion, from what I've seen. But let me know below yours. I'd love to hear it. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe for more, and catch you on the next one.